Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another Monday Live. Today we're getting weird and weirder than we usually get, which has got to be pretty weird, right? So, we're going to be talking about glitches in the Matrix, what they are, why they happen, and how you can actually create your own glitches. So, definitely stay tuned till the end of this video for all of that great insight. This actually shouldn't be too long of a video, so it's going to be pretty action packed. I wanted to get started with a glitch that happened probably about 6 months ago. And essentially what happened was I walked in from outside, walked into the living room, and I very clearly saw my wife there. She was on the couch on her laptop. The TV was playing. I saw the reflection of the light on her face from her laptop, and so I took in the scene. I looked away for a split second, and when I looked back, she was no longer on the couch, but instead, she was sitting at the table, the kitchen table. Same TV program was playing, and same thing. She was on her laptop at the kitchen table. Same thing. Saw the reflection of the light on her face, and I was like, "Wow, babe! Like I swear I just saw you sitting on the couch, doing the same thing." And she's like, "Oh, that's so funny because I was sort of debating whether or not I wanted to sit on the couch or sit at the kitchen table to whatever, do this coding or whatever techie thing she does." And so that's a great example of something that I like to call bilocation. And we're going to talk about sort of the glitches that we can experience and what they mean. And I've got a couple of stories of each one of these things. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I wanted to give my friends over at the Galactic Federation of Light Apparel a little shout out because honestly, I wear their merch pretty much all day, every day. You can't tell, but I am wearing sweatpants right now, and their merchandise is just so comfortable to lounge in. And then I also love actually going out of the house in their merchandise because it has a message. So, this is one of my most recent gifts from them, and it says Soul Over Status. It's a sweatshirt, and on the back, you can see it says soul over status, which I absolutely love. And then my second favorite sweatshirt that I wear all the time, it's a sort of a nice sage green, and all their stuff is so like oversized and comfy, and it has "This is your sign" on the back. And I just feel like I can walk around, and if someone's really debating something in their life and they walk past me and they read "This is your sign," it just feels like it's that message that they needed in that moment. So I love walking around with conscious apparel, and then also something that can give people a message to wake them up a little bit in a very passive way. So please go check them out. Their website is galacticfederationoflight.com. It is as simple as that, and you'll see all of their merch and apparel there. Highly recommend it. I want to talk about a couple of the other glitches that we can experience as well in our reality. Duplication. Okay, so we've got a couple of things. Bilocation, duplication, changes. I mean, I didn't really have a fancy term for that. And then also time. Okay, so I want to like kind of break down all of these different glitches in the matrix that we can experience. So, as I mentioned, bilocation. I also had many moments of bilocation with my dog when she was alive, and she's in a good place now, Abby. And it got to a point where I called her the quantum dog. I would walk into a room and I would have her be by my feet, sniffing around, doing her thing, right? Begging for food. And then in the next moment, I would look and she'd be sound asleep in the corner in her bed. And then in the next moment, she would be on top of our bed. Same thing, sound asleep or in the kitchen. But it would be this constant daily glitch that I would experience where she would be in multiple places seemingly at the same time. It was so bizarre. So that's called bilocation. And then duplication. This one tends to happen to me quite often where I duplicate things. The first time this ever happened was so mind blowing. This was many years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And me and my wife had a Jeep, and there was only ever one key, one fob for the Jeep. Okay. And so that key fob was so precious. And the one day we lost our only key fob. And if you guys have ever lost a fob, you know they're so expensive, right? To replace, like hundreds of dollars to replace. So I'm like looking everywhere for this fob. I go into the car because it's unlocked, and I'm like looking around, and I literally open the door of the passenger seat, and there's a fob right sitting right on the chair, the seat of the passenger side. I'm like, oh my God, I found the fob. Amazing. I go back in, and Nat's like, oh my God, I found the fob. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, it was just on my desk the whole time. And I'm like, no way, because I just found a key fob on the passenger seat. And we were just mind blown that she had lost that secondary fob for a number of years leading up to that moment. Like, there's just no way. Since then, I've duplicated many things. There was like a bath toy that Bodhi had that got duplicated overnight, like the exact same color, everything. Also recently, like in the past month, my absolute favorite coffee mug, it was like this like really beautiful teal blue color, and that was duplicated, the exact same one. I asked everyone, like, I'm like, babe, did you buy another one? Or like family members, did you have this? Is this yours? I'm just so confused. And yet identical, everything down to the UBC code, whatever the code was at the bottom. Everything. I mean, I'm sure all the codes are the same for the same merchandise. I'm not really sure how it works, but it was really bizarre. And I was very grateful for that duplication because I really love that mug. And yeah, so duplication, that happens quite often in my life. Actually, same thing with this notebook. So I made myself, because I thought I deserved it, a custom notebook from this company. Just because I love the paper quality and all of that. And two ended up coming in the mail. Two of the exact same custom notebook came in the mail. I ended up gifting one away to one of the community members. And yet when I looked at my account, I hadn't ordered two. I hadn't paid for two. I didn't need two. So it's just so wild, right? Duplication is another glitch in the matrix. And then changes, I mean, let's call it Mandela effects, right? So when something has always been the one thing and then it changes to the other. Funny enough, I was actually reading Bodhi a Berenstain Bears book last night from my childhood. And I always check because I am convinced that one day it is going to switch back to Berenstain Bears rather than Berenstain Bears. And it hasn't yet. So, but I always check. So, just last week, things were getting really weird, and we have these little ice packs that are in the shape like a circle shape, and like they have like monster faces on them for boo-boos, right? They're boo-boo ice packs for toddlers, and I get one out of the freezer, and they have arms to them. These ice packs have arms, and I'm looking at this thing thinking, no freaking way. It's always been a circle with no arm. Anyway, it blew my mind. Definitely a glitch, definitely a change. And then finally, time. Okay, time glitches. So if you've noticed, time can seemingly speed up, time can slow down, and both Nat and I have had many moments where time has stopped altogether. I remember we were at an Airbnb in Washington. It's so beautiful. And we got into this conversation, and it's so interesting because we have this ability to like create this bubble. Like nothing exists outside the bubble. I can't really describe it or explain it. Anyway, so we get into one of these bubbles, like this deep, deep conversation. And I remember looking at the little alarm clock beside the bed because I don't really have a lot of clocks in my own life. So I look at the digital clock and it read something like 9:34. Okay. We get into this deep discussion. I swear at least 45 minutes has gone by, if not an hour. And I look back at the clock and it goes from 9:34 and it switches to 9:35. And I did not tell her anything. And I said, how much time do you think just passed in that conversation we had. And she's like, oh, at least an hour. Nope. Not even a minute, like not even a minute. But it's like the second I warped out of that bubble, the time started moving again. We've had many, many moments of that. Very recently, it feels like the time has sped up. Now, I will say, leading up to a really big glitch, okay, what tends to happen is something I like to call time distortion. So leading up to big changes in the timelines, time distortion will happen. So it'll be a Friday, but it feels like a Wednesday. It'll be a Sunday, but it feels like a Monday. It's like sometimes we feel that way and that just occurs that day. But when it's a really big timeline switch, you'll have almost every day of the week will feel like a different day. And so that time distortion is a really good indication that things are getting a little glitchy. They're getting a little weird. The reason why I wanted to talk about glitches in the Matrix right now is because we are going to experience a ton of them coming up into this year. And the reason why is because we are getting hit with a lot of solar flares and electromagnetic frequencies. As the solar flares hit us, the frequency shifts. And as the frequency changes and shifts on planet Earth, it changes and shifts our timeline, our rooted reality, which is just so wild, like such a trip to even contemplate. Now, I will say I got pretty deep on timelines and glitches and shifting and like all that whole conversation just this past January with the Galactic Federation. So if you are really interested in this topic and you want to know more and you also want to know what the Galactic Federation has to say about it and you want to feel a little confused, definitely go check out. It'll be episode 1, season 2024 of, or sorry, oh my God, where are we? Season 2025, episode 1 of the Galactic Federation on the website, okay? Okay, so what exactly is a timeline? First of all, I'm talking about timelines and timeline shifting. What is a timeline? A timeline is essentially, it is a, oh my God, how do I even describe this? It is a set of experiences combined on a path. Like the worst. I really should have pre-thought this out. A timeline is essentially an experience that we have in the moment, which is a collaboration of all the different factors of your reality. Okay? It's just like terrible, terrible explanation of a timeline. A timeline is a moment in your reality. It's a culmination of events for you to experience your reality. Okay, terrible, terrible, terrible. When a timeline changes, aspects of our reality can change. For example, you're driving to work, and in one timeline, in one predetermined set of events, okay, pathway, one predetermined pathway, you get to work at, 8:02. And if you take a different route to work, you end up hitting a traffic jam. And you get into work at 8:11 a.m. Okay? Those are just an example of two different timelines. When we get into quantum mechanics and we start to understand the way that this universe works, we begin to understand and comprehend that there's an infinite number of different timelines. There's an infinite number of choices we can make. There's an infinite number of outcomes to those infinite number of choices. For example, this morning I decided on coffee and then I decided on tea. Actually, I've had a little bit of everything today. But in a different timeline, I decided on orange juice or what have you, right? Whatever we have in the fridge. So, or nothing at all, or just water or what have you, okay? So those are different timelines. Those are different event outcomes. So that's what a timeline is. What is a glitch? Okay, this is really fascinating because no one really talks about exactly what a glitch is. A glitch is a mistake. And the reason why a glitch is a mistake is because Let's use Berenstein versus Berenstain Bears, for example, as a Mandela effect. Okay, there was some sort of change in the timeline. The mistake or the glitch is that certain people remember the old timeline. Typically, when we shift timelines, for example, I take one route to work rather than the other, I'm not supposed to remember the alternate route to work. I could have kicked myself saying, oh, if I really took my other direction, I would have been here faster because I wouldn't have hit this traffic jam or what have you, right? But typically, we do not remember what occurs in alternate timelines. We choose a timeline, and that timeline is set in motion, and that is the only reality that we are experiencing. However, as the frequency shifts and it gets higher and we get hit with all these solar flares, we are starting to blur the lines between timelines, and we are starting to remember aspects of alternate timelines that could have potentially happened in the present moment. So a glitch is a mistake. Glitches are just byproducts of the alternate timeline that we remember that we really shouldn't be remembering, okay? It's a mistake to really remember those things. Okay, so when and why do they happen? Like, why do these glitches happen? I've already mentioned it. Solar flares, shifting your own frequency. If you're in a low frequency or a high frequency, I'm telling you, like, the people you meet, the conversations you have, it all changes based on your own personal frequency. Have you ever noticed that, and I have had a couple grumpy days lately, have you ever noticed that when you're in a grumpy mood, you drop more things, I stub my toe, and it's like, it just extends the grumpiness. And same thing, when I'm like floating on a cloud, as I usually am, I'm usually a very positive person, I will just go out in the world and like have these incredible conversations with random people I come across and just like align to other people in that same frequency. Okay, so that's sort of when glitches happen. I also noticed recently that not only am I correlating the glitches to solar flares and Schumann resonance spikes, but I've also correlated glitches with Schumann resonance blackouts, like a blackout in the radio equipment, and then also blackouts with the solar flare equipment. I don't know why blackouts happen in these like in these recording like measurement devices, but anyway, I've always noticed that like there will be this time distortion beforehand and then a big blackout, and that's when I'm like, okay, something's different. Like there's a couple things that have changed. And then also, if you're someone who's very rooted in your reality, I wake up at 6 a.m. every day. I drink my coffee every day at 6:01. I go for a walk. I do my thing. If you're very rooted in your day-to-day rituals and routine and reality, you're not going to notice a lot of glitches. If you are starting to change things up, if you have a new romantic partner, if you've just moved locations, you're going to notice a lot more synchronicities and also a lot more glitches because your timeline, your set destined reality is not, it's not predetermined yet. The more we choose different things, the more we decide to change our reality, the more glitches we're going to experience. That's why they happen. And then, of course, once again, shift in frequency, solar flares are also going to give you an uptick in glitches. Okay, how do you create more glitches? This is fun. So create intentional changes, right? So just like I mentioned, the more you change, the more glitches you experience. What I find is that when we go about our day in a very routine way, the events, like the cause and the effect of our day and our events are set in motion. They're once again, they're predetermined. Anything outside of that is going to be a little bit shocking. It's going to be different. But when we decide to go about doing things differently that day, it could be as simple as I'm going to drink my cup of coffee with my left hand rather than my right. Just that minor change can open up these doors for different timelines to occur. Once we open up those doors, anything can happen. Once we choose a different way, different route to work, once we cook a different meal on Wednesdays, we open up these doors for new timelines to occur. And I recommend it. We need to be at a place right now where we are outside of our comfortability zone, which allows us to experience new aspects of reality. And when we are okay with change and we are okay with being uncomfortable because we don't know, and when we open up those doors and anything can happen, then we're setting ourselves up for shifting into the highest possible timeline in our reality rather than sticking with what we know just because it's comfortable. Okay? So I do recommend random action, taking random action and then setting an intention. If you're like, I want to meet the love of my life, or I want to manifest a new job, or I want to whatever that looks like for you. Intention, like be very intentional with what you want, and then switch up your reality by creating a lot of change, and then new opportunities are going to come to you that align to your intention. Intentional change. Be intentional, create change. The doors that open up are not random doors. The doors that open up are opening up based on the intention that you've already set. Seriously, this is like literally hacking your reality. All right. Okay, like I said, if you want more weird glitches, check out episode 1, season 2025 of the Galactic Federation. And then coming up on March 10th, which would be episode 3, season 2025, here are a couple of the questions I'm going to be asking. Do heavy metals hinder our ascension? Are we all ascending into Christ consciousness? And if so, how and when, and will we get there in our lifetime? Where are we at with the reptilian battle? What's the current status of child trafficking? I really want to know. I hope that they're okay, or at least things are moving in the right direction. And then also, like, tell us more about adrenochrome. Like, there's this whole sort of underground business that I haven't really asked them about. So I'm interested in that. And there are more questions that I will be asking. So check that out coming up on March 11th, another Galactic Federation Summit. And yeah, other than that, also go to the galacticfederationoflight.com for some epic merch and some very comfy, conscious styles. I love you guys so much. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share it with a fellow weirdo who loves quantum mechanics. Bye for now.